The Acolyte episode 6, Teach/Corrupt, was weird. I didn't vibe with this episode as much as I would have liked to. It was like Phantom of the Opera meets Halloween Ends, in both the good and the bad, but the seduction of the dark side has never looked this good. Episode 6 set us up on an extremely interesting path headed into the final 2 episodes of the series, but I'm still hopeful it'll pay off in the end. Before we continue, welcome back to my channel. My name is Scotty and I'm a queer Star Wars creator. Please consider liking, subscribing, and following me on social media for all my latest Star Wars content. So this episode first and foremost gave us more insight into Qimir, learning that he was once a Jedi and presumably a Sith apprentice as well. Though he was cast aside by his master, literally stabbing him in the back, earning that gigantic scar we see a few times throughout the episode, where he's also shirtless. Initially, I guess that Qimir would have been wronged by the Jedi in his past, but this episode makes me believe that he was betrayed by both the Jedi and the Sith. Like I discussed in my episode 5 review on Qimir and May's relationship, I believe Qimir is trying to take advantage and exploit the same emotions and pain in Osha, but also her desire of belonging, something she's craved since she was a child. Qimir tells Osha that, like her, he was also cast aside by his master and lost everything, thus making Osha a perfect target for him. May would have never been a good pupil or acolyte because she's extremely selfish and was never truly devoted to the stranger because she's always been out for herself. But in contrast, Osha is loyal and craves community, something she never felt like she had until she joined the Jedi Order. But even there, she truly never belonged, which is why she was eventually cast aside or left. Qimir mentions wanting a pupil, speaks highly of the master and apprentice relationship, and goes as far as saying that he wants the power of 2, which was a direct callback to Mother Anisea's coven, which I'm sure only further pulled on Osha's heartstrings. I think the creatures on the island in this episode are also meant to portray a sense of belonging or family, contrasted with the stranger and Osha, who were both cast aside and are still searching for their purpose in a place where they belong. When Osha finally confronts Qimir about murdering the Jedi and her friends, he immediately shuts her down, saying Yord was quick to turn her in for a crime she didn't commit, and that her relationship with Jecki would never be more than one-sided, just like her relationship with Sol. And we see Qimir prey upon these emotions, not only acting as someone who can sympathize with Osha, but someone who can also teach and guide her on a path forward together. Throughout the episode, Qimir provokes Osha, saying things like, Sol taught you the Jedi arts, but he's more to you than that. That's your strength in the Force, Osha. Someone ought to teach you that. The Jedi teach there's only one way to access the Force, and if you don't do it their way, it fades. Why do you love people who can only go so far, who can't go as deep as you can? And finally, I lost everything, Osha. But when you lose everything, that's when you're finally free. The stranger also entices her with his words and the idea of reaching her untapped potential the Jedi kept from her, culminating in the final moments of the episode where he tells Osha to trust herself and to put on his Cortosis helmet to block out everything except herself and the Force. Then in the final moments of the episode, Osha's curiosity does get the best of her as we watch her put the helmet on and see her point of view inside the mask, which is completely black except for the small eye slits, and all we hear is the sound of her breathing, in a lingering sequence that honestly felt like the second most chilling scene of the entire series. This actually reminded me a lot of the Halloween franchise, specifically the most recent trilogy by director David Gordon Green, where the mask of Michael Myers acts almost as a vessel, taking away a person's humanity, turning them into a shape, and giving them power. Osha putting on the Cortosis mask or helmet seems like it might awaken something within her, which I think is exactly what Qimir wants, and I'm honestly scared to see the fallout. The stranger's interactions with Osha and the yearning throughout, mixed with the setting of his cave or lair, was also giving me very Phantom of the Opera, and that did make me enjoy it all a little bit more. But I really would have loved to see the entire episode focus on Qimir and Osha's relationship, seeing them spend time together, gradually gaining each other's trust and furthering their connection, while also seeing the beginning of Osha's turn away from Sol, the Jedi, and the light. Would have been really interesting, but also tragic to witness, thus making for an even better story, building an emotional ending regardless of Osha's path, but I'll just have to accept episode 6 for what it is. I also quickly want to mention a theory I saw on X by Jordan Mason, that the unknown planet may actually be the planet Baldemnic from the Darth Plagueis novel. A theory and connection I really like that I hope turns out to be true. Do you think Qimir could have been the former apprentice to Darth Plagueis' master, Darth Tenebrous? Let me know down in the comments below. So pivoting the focus to Sol and May, their scenes in the episode felt really wonky, from Sol attempting to contact the council in the beginning, to the ship's power issues, Bazil trying to expose May, and Sol's awkward turn at the end. Like, is he going to wipe her mind or the memories of the past? Is he maybe taking her back to Brendok to finally kill the last reminder of his past mistakes? I can't tell. It just felt a little all over the place, and I really didn't like Sol in this episode. On the other hand, I do think Sol still had the standout moment of these sequences when he's standing alone in the common area of the ship, finally having a moment to slow down, allowing himself to feel his emotions about everything that's happened. Lee Jung-jae was able to convey so much through his physical acting alone, the punch, looking around the ship at the empty spaces his Jedi companions filled on their way to Kofar, and just seeing the pain in his eyes. It was such a great scene. May, however, was just like, go girl, give us nothing. I did enjoy the cute scenes of Bazil though, trying to expose May, only for Sol to beat him to it in the end, but other than that, I didn't love these parts of the episode. I think the sequences of Sol and May would have also been better off as their own episode, diving further into both characters' headspaces and building up the tension to Sol realizing May switch places with Osha, and getting at least a little bit of the truth about Brendok, since at this point, Sol's been teasing that he's going to explain everything for the past 3 episodes, and yet we still haven't learned a thing. These sequences could have also been cut with the scenes of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and Vernestra retracing the Jedi steps on Kofar. I know some people are theorizing that Vernestra may have been Qimir's Jedi Master in the past, and even the one who gave him those scars on his back due to her use of a lightwhip, and shifty nature about what really happened to the Jedi on Kofar. I mean, she definitely seems like she knows, or at least suspects, a lot more than she's saying, but only time will tell. I really just hope we get to see her use her light whip again, because even its use in this episode felt like a huge tease, and is really the only exciting thing about her in this show so far. And there's only 2 episodes left, so why include her? But do you think Vernestra is hiding something, or that she could have been Qimir's Jedi Master? Let me know down in the comments below. In the end, I just really wish we got to spend more time with these characters. This 8 30-minute episode Disney Plus format is not doing Star Wars any favors, and really just feels like a disservice to the stories these writers and directors are trying to tell. But what did you think of episode 6, and what did you like about it, or what did you not like about it? Let me know your thoughts and what you think will happen in the final 2 episodes in the comments, or join my Discord to continue the conversation there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and consider following me on social media at ScottyHolidaySW for all my latest Star Wars content. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.